The Invitation to Philosophy of Education, Existentialism and Phenomenology. Here are the objectives. After reading this chapter, students are expected to: number 1, describe the relationship of philosophy and education. Number 2, explain what philosophy of education is and its relevance. And number 3, acquire a clear understanding regarding the different philosophical systems relevant to philosophy of education. Returning the eye in philosophy, existentialism and phenomenology. Existentialism places a big importance on the individual, which they think is overshadowed by the prioritization of ideas. This has consequences in their philosophy of education. First, instead of placing too much emphasis on the creation of ideas or debate and argumentations, existential educators prioritize the creator of these ideas as a living and feeling being. They believe that every student is unique, and that is why they focus on the human reality and encourage them to ask questions such as, who am I and what is the purpose of my life? It is important to note that existentialism in education does not imply laissez-faire. Instead, teachers should live this out through their deeds. That is why existential philosophers are different from others, because they try to apply their philosophies throughout their lives. This is the reason why existential teachers look up to both Socrates and Sartre. Socrates is not formally known as an existential philosopher, but his death reminds us to stand for what we believe in, no matter what. Sartre, on the other hand, in his much celebrated public lecture, Existentialism is Humanism, he repeatedly says that as a person, we are all condemned to be free, and this freedom will allow us to take positions or actions even in the midst of cruelty and despotism. For the curriculum, existentialists do not have a definite one, but they all lean to the humanities side over the sciences. The humanities exposes students to the essential aspects of human existence, from happiness to the absurdities of life. Donald Vandenberg suggests that a student should be viewed both as a landscape and geography. Landscape is the correlate of the learner's pre-reflective consciousness. It is disorganized, even chaotic, and education should proceed to expand continually the horizons of this landscape within the limits of the learner's finitude. Geography involves bringing order and logic to this landscape and providing the learner with a structured education as represented by the organized curriculum. This metaphor challenges the teacher to unite the uniqueness of the student or their landscape with the geography of the designed curriculum. I think, therefore I learn philosophical analysis. One of the most fundamental themes in analytic philosophy is the emphasis on clarification of language over knowledge acquisition. Analytic philosophers claim that problems driving in the history of philosophy are all problems in language. Instead of asking questions, what is beautiful or what is good, analytic philosophers would mostly likely to clarify the first terms beauty and goodness. Hence, in analytical philosophy, the goal of philosophy is critical clarification. This view reverberates on the major function of their philosophy of education as the clarification of the concepts through the use of language analysis. If the goal of the education is to clarify language, analytic philosophers advocate activities that are centered on analyzing, evaluating, synthesizing, and structuring information. These activities are geared toward the development of student critical thinking. The word thinking is used in different ways. I think you should study for this examination. I think that I should go to the bookstore. I want a book, but I can't think of the name of the book. I think that I shall become a teacher. I was just sitting here thinking about what a wonderful vacation I had last summer and thinking what will be like next year. I shall have to think about your offer before I can decide what action to take. Statements 1 and 2 are statements of belief, and the word think can be replaced by believe or feel. The use of think in the third statement can be replaced by remember, because the statement expresses lapse of memory. I think in the fourth statement states a desire, and finally the words remembering and wondering are more accurate in the fifth statement. The sixth or final statement shows elements of choice and analysis, two of the important aspects that constitute critical thinking, which is sometimes called as rational reflection, reflective thinking, or rational thought. Aside from this, critical thinking necessitates clarity of language and meaning, the analysis of one's belief or ideas. In a sense, critical thinking is thinking about thinking, if we are going to use the example above. Bertrand Russell is one of the analytic philosophers who wrote books and articles regarding philosophy of education. Critical thinking is central in Russell's philosophy. William Hare, 1999, a scholar of Russell, enumerates critical thinking attitudes inherent in the latter's philosophy. Number 1, the ability to form an opinion for oneself. Number 2, the ability to find an impartial solution. And number 3, the ability to identify and question assumptions. Russell insists that there is more to wisdom than just intellect. In Russell's more humanistic conception of education, he says that the teacher should love his students better than his state or his church, otherwise he is not an ideal teacher. This leads to his idea that education should be free from indoctrination in order for the student to apply individual judgment. More importantly, students should be regarded as ends and not as means, because for Russell, neither character nor intelligence will develop as well as or as freely where a teacher is deficient in love, and love of this kind consists essentially in feeling the child as an end. Acknowledgement. Contents taken from Exploring the Philosophical Terrain, edited by Lenny B.I.R. Garcia, published by C&E Publishing Incorporated, 2013. Thank you.